And we're back, and thank you for staying with us. We've got two dynamic, yes, as a matter of fact, the stage is not large enough to accommodate both Celi and Freddie. Two dynamic young Bahamians, prolific in their work in the areas of their activities, and very passionate about what they do. I do not know any individuals who love the Bahamas more than Fred Munnings and Celi Moss. Not as much as, perhaps, but not more than. And I'm delighted to have them here as our guests on Moving Forward, this brand new television program designed to move the nation forward as we try to provide, with the assistance of the public, answers and information to many of our pressing problems. Just before the break, we talked about something that's very important. Could be somewhat controversial, but we're not afraid of controversy. We have lived with controversy perhaps before we were born. And it is the attitude of governments relative to Clifton. And let me make this point. In 1999, when the coalition to save Clifton was established, there was an F&M administration in place. And they fought us tooth and nail, called us everything but children of God. And we fought them tooth and nail. And we succeeded, with the help of thousands of residents and non-residents, in getting that proposed upscale gated community scrapped. At the time, apologists for the F&M government were denigrating us in the media, and they were saying CB Moss and the rest of them are PLPs trying to bring down the F&M government. And ironically, now that we are fighting for the Sea Park, it's the same thing. Apologists for the current PLP administration say the same thing. CB Moss and the rest of them are F&Ms trying to bring down the PLP government. The point is, governments tend to adopt the same position once they adopt the same offices for some strange reason. The PLP came to power in 2002 on the backs of our fight to save Clifton. This was stated on a number of occasions post-2002 by the Prime Minister himself, Perry Christie, over and over. They told us that they would introduce the Sea Park. Nothing has been done. And now we're fighting them to prevent them from leasing properties to, again, a non-Bahamian. Properties that we have established scientifically that would undermine the environment in that whole area. So whereas the former administration was going with a gated community for upscale residents, foreign residents, the current administration is apparently prepared to go with another foreign resident as it relates to Crown land. And so that's the fight. Fred said something as we were going off, that we shouldn't look to the government, it's to the people. You want to elaborate on that?
Yes, and I simply mean by this, because the government the government is the representatives of the people. And I think Celi has a strong position on this, and I agree with him. The politicians will only do what we allow them to do in their representation of us. Politicians, by large measure, lead by following. And I have a cliche, I got it from, I think, the late Rex Nettleford. Need not be concerned about the minister of culture, but rather the culture in the minister. In other words, don't wait for the government to do what we know is right. As if we had waited for the government to do what we know is right, Clifton will now be a gated community.
Yes.
If the Right Honorable Prime Minister at the time had waited for the government of the day to do what is right, Lyndon Pinnon would have never thrown the mace out of the window, nor would Milo Butler throw out the time glass. The point that I'm making is, if you see wrong, you must try to right it. And wherever there is right, you must support it. Well, and no matter who is doing the wrong, I don't care if they're wearing red, I don't care if they're wearing green, I don't care if they're wearing yellow. It doesn't matter to me. If you do wrong, then you must correct it. And if you don't correct it, as my grandmother used to say to me all the time, my son, if you can't hear, you're going to feel.
Well, that's an
and if the majority of the people say it ain't going to happen, and it wasn't a majority in the case of Clifton, but we created that snowball effect.
Yes.
Because it was sparked on the night in the room at St. Paul's Church, Catholic Church, when C.B. Moss whispered to me, Fred, we can't allow this to happen.
That's right.
Those were his words to me.
And I'm whispering the same thing now because the truth is, over the last couple of years, the government, the current administration, had in its possession an application from Mr. Peter Nygaard to lease the land that he illegally created. Now, I am not saying he illegally created it. The government is saying it. The FNM government said it. The PLP government is saying it. They both are saying that the illegal activity at Clifton Point has created a problem for the area, and it will undermine the sea park. When we said to the FNM government 15 years ago about the gated community, they didn't listen.
Right.
They had to feel. We're saying to the current government, you cannot lease this land. And if they do not listen, we're encouraging the Bahamian people to make them feel. Here's what is happening. The government said they were minded, and that's their word, to approve the lease of this accreted land to Mr. Nygaard because he had promised to build a stem cell facility on the land, thereby creating hundreds of jobs. Well, last year, Mr. Nygaard said he has no intention of building a stem cell facility on that site. In fact, he went to Freeport, as the nation knows, in search of proper facilities for his proposed stem cell facility. So we're saying to the government, if you were minded, after acknowledging, the government acknowledged that the work down there has damaged the area and will continue to damage the area. But if you thought you would compensate for that by, providing employment, well, now that the employment down there is not going to happen, what is the justification for continuing to consider the lease? Here's what happened. Because the government was at the point of considering the lease, and it was done very quietly, but because of the uproar created by ourselves and others, the government has decided now to take the more transparent way. So they published in the Gazette last week, Wednesday, the 18th, the public announcement that they want to consider an application from Mr. Nygaard to rebuild his house on his site, which was destroyed in, I think, 2009. And further, they want to consider leasing him some of the seabed area. Well, the position of the Clifton Coalition is we have no difficulty in them approving an application for him to rebuild his house on his property. The government authorized a report, and we have a copy of the report. And the report actually states numerous reasons why the government should not approve the application. We have the report. The report said that Mr. Nygaard originally purchased in 1984 about 3.25 acres of land.
So you're saying that this is additional land
that he has accreted by using man-made obstacles in the water.
So they want to build now on the accretion?
Yes. Well, what the
accreted land?
Well, I have it here. It says in the government notices is that the application is to repair the house that was damaged by fire in 2009, and also to create further buildings. So we don't know where these buildings are going.
Right.
And then further down it says the report, that's the report that the government authorized. The report is also to guide the decision-making process in respect to an application to lease certain areas of the seabed adjacent to Sims Point, which is also known as Nygaard Key. Well, why do they want to lease more land if he already owns 3.25 acres of land? The report says that the land that now exists under the control of Mr. Nygaard following the accretion is 6.1 acres. So about 2.85 acres he has expanded his land
accreted
by accretion, and that's crown land.
Yes.
And the point we are trying to make is the government has no reason for approving the lease of that 2.85 acres. The report by the government, and go to the website of the Best Commission and you will see the report. The report spells out in detail the damages caused by that illegal work.
Did it identify what these other buildings would be?
No. No.
So you don't know if they're
have no idea.
residents or they're
Have no
commercial
idea.
properties?
And once it is approved, then it's out of our hands. And the government is asking for input, feedback
But then we
within
need to give
21
it to
days.
them.
Well, we're going to give it to them.
Yes.
We have our legal advisors preparing our legal response, but we are calling upon the Bahamian people now, as we did 15 years ago. That accreted land is Bahamian land.
Yes.
And by the way,
Yes.
on the 10th of July, Independence Day, the coalition will be staging a picnic on what we call the Crown Beach at Nygaard Key.
Oh, well?
The Crown Beach, it belongs to the Bahamian people. And we are having a picnic there. And we're inviting the
DJ?
DJ barbecue. That's our
Make sure you
place.
play Bahamian music.
Oh, it's only, well, only Bahamian
Only
music.
Bahamian music.
Only, that's our beach. That beach does not belong
Only
to Mr.
how we
Nygaard.
get there though?
Oh, boat.
How you access it?
Oh, boat.
You got to go by boat.
Oh, yeah, and we have the boat.
There's no access. Shouldn't there be an easement to
There
it? though?
should be, but we're not even going to worry about that. We're going straight on the beach. And we're
By
going to have a
boat.
by boat. We're going to have a picnic. So if anyone wishes to join us, get your boat, get
You
your
have a
jet
flotilla.
ski. And we're going to go over there and we're going to, that's
See,
our
serious.
beach. Well, the public will remember that we went and we claimed the beach. You may have seen the photograph.
remember that.
You remember with, it's similar to when, what's his name, your good friend, Christopher Columbus, your good friend, said he claimed the Bahamas with his flag on the beach. Well, that's our beach.
Yes.
And we are saying to
No,
the
no,
government,
That's serious. That's serious.
yeah, we are saying to the government, assist Mr. Nygaard in any way that you can in developing his 3.25 acres. We have no objection to that. The report also said, and this is very important, that the buildings that previously existed at the site did not receive any approval from town planning.
So you
Yes,
didn't
I
have
think
any
I-
permits or
I-
anything?
Nothing.
I've-
And
yeah.
so we are saying to the government,
But you can
Yes.
build without permits, right?
you shouldn't. You shouldn't. It's a crime. We're saying to the government, assist Mr. Nygaard in constructing his former home or any other construction he wishes on his 3.25 acres, provided it's within the parameters of the law. We would even go down and assist in doing that. But we are not prepared. And we believe that we speak for the Bahamian people as we did 15 years ago. And we are encouraging the Bahamian people.
And why should people have a right to use Bahamian property,
Yeah.
particularly beach property, without permission?
And you can do it.
But don't.
We can't do it.
But don't.
They closed us down at Nirvana.
Yes.
Because we were trying to operate legitimately.
But don't government
mean,
political
what is this?
donations constitute permission?
Oh, come
Yes.
on, Joe.
Well, no, it is
Yeah, I know
said.
you're saying that tongue in cheek.
No, no,
right?
no,
But-
no, no. Well, it is. Mr. Nygaard thinks so, because in the newspapers in the last week or so, the stories are coming out now. Because once the government decided to be more transparent, I think once the government realized that they could not get away with signing this thing in secret, as was proposed initially, once they realized that they had to go by way of the law,
Right.
which is to publish it in the
That's
Gazette,
that's the only way to go.
then by so doing, a lot of information that
Yes.
previously were buried, that information now has to come out.
Well,
And
Celi,
all we are saying to the Bahamian people is, we are fighting for you, your children. Here's what we did. Over the last couple of months, we have been arranging tours to show the Bahamian people what exists out there. And almost unanimously, once they have done that tour, they said that there's no way. We have invited politicians, we've invited religious leaders, we have invited all of the stakeholders. And by way of further invitation on the 5th of July, that's this coming Saturday, next week Saturday, we are having a tour for the remainder of the politicians who couldn't make the first tour. And it's free. And for the remainder, that's at 2 p.m. for the general public, 3 p.m. for the politicians, 4 p.m. for the religious leaders. That's on July 5th. We want them to see what exists out there, and we want them to go close up to Nygaard Key and see the damage with their own eyes. The report tells you about the damage. And all along, Mr. Nygaard and those who support the thing were saying he had permission. The report, which was done for the Bahamas government, paid for by the Bahamas government, says he had no report, no permission.
But Rev, what I would like to do, I would like to encourage Bahamians not only to go out there and see it, but, you know, after you've seen it, you know, to find the courage to step up. Because unfortunately, I think like today, a lot of Bahamians are like so bombarded with bills and so much pressures of just trying to make a daily survival that, you know, oh, Clifton, you know, someone else will save it. But, you know, we've come to a point, I think, in our history where Bahamians, you know, you need to make the time. You need to find the courage and stand up, because we're at a crossroad that if we don't make the decisions and the right decisions right now, we're going to lose our entire country forever. Because, you know, unfortunately, you know, even though the people should step up, it would be nice to have leaders that see, you know, this is our country and would, for once, take us in the right direction in terms of being good stewards of our land. You know how many Bahamians don't have land and we can just give someone 3 acres?
Not only
but they
don't
gotta
have
stand
it,
up.
but who applied to the government for the lease of Crown land for some worthy project. Many of them have not even heard
Well,
from the
CB,
government.
you know, in many parts and countries in the Caribbean, you cannot buy beachfront property. In Barbados, for example,
That's right.
you cannot buy beachfront property, much less acquire it. Acquired it without legal authority.
Yes. Let's hold the point right there. We're going to go to our final break. Then we're going to come back because it's getting hot in here. Because it's getting hot. Because the more we talk about this, the more serious
It's
we
real
become.
stuff, man.
The truth of the matter is, what is going to be left for your children and your grandchildren
Not a game.
if we continue in this direction? We'll be right back.
That's the